Toshiba. For decades, that name was basically a synonym for Japanese innovation. These are the guys who gave us the world's first mass-market laptop, the chips that powered, well, everything. They were an absolute empire. And today, that empire is gone. So how does a 140-year-old titan, a true pillar of global tech, just vanish? That's the incredible story we're unpacking right now.
Just let that sink in for a second. Toshiba wasn't just another company making gadgets. They were literally building a future that we all live in today. So when a company like that falls, it's not just a business story. It's like a major landmark just being wiped off the map.
And the answer, you'll see, isn't just one simple mistake. Oh no. It was a series of catastrophic blows, one after another, that brought this giant to its knees. So let's follow the cracks that led to the final collapse.
The final, quiet end came in December 2023. After 74 years as a public company, Toshiba was bought out for $14 billion and delisted from the Tokyo Stock Exchange. It was a quiet, almost anticlimactic end for a company that once absolutely roared on the world stage.
Because, before the fall, there was this incredible rise. And to really get the tragedy of what was lost, you have to appreciate the genius of what they built. This wasn't some flash-in-the-pan company. We're talking about a legacy of genuine, groundbreaking innovation that spanned more than a century. I mean, just look at this journey. It starts way back in 1875 as Japan's first telegraph equipment maker. It grows and becomes a central pillar of Japan's post-war economic miracle. And by 1985, they're giving the entire world its first mass-market laptop. This wasn't just a company. It was a national champion.
And the secret sauce behind all this expansion was this uniquely Japanese system called the keiretsu. Now think of it like a big corporate family, a whole web of companies all interconnected and supporting each other. It created this powerful shield, right? It allowed Toshiba to fearlessly expand into everything from TVs to nuclear power. But, as we're about to find out, that same shield can create some really dangerous blind spots.
And that shield was about to completely shatter. See, the downfall wasn't some slow, gradual decline. It was a rapid collapse, triggered by two totally distinct events, a brutal 1-2 punch that the company just could not recover from.
The first blow, sadly, struck from within. In 2015, a massive accounting scandal just blew up. And we're not talking about some creative bookkeeping here. No, this was a systemic, top-down culture of deceit, where senior management was literally forcing entire divisions to cook the books, to turn ugly losses into beautiful profits on paper.
And the scale of the fraud was just breathtaking. Over 6 years, the company inflated its profits by nearly $2 billion. The entire board was eventually dismissed, executives resigned, and Toshiba got hit with the largest financial penalty in Japan's history at that time. Its most valuable asset, trust, was completely shattered.
Now, just as Toshiba was reeling from this massive internal crisis, the second and ultimately fatal blow landed. And this one came from a huge strategic gamble the company had made years earlier.
And here's exactly how that gamble went so wrong. Back in 2006, they bet big, and I mean big, buying the American nuclear firm Westinghouse for over $5 billion. Then in 2011, the Fukushima disaster happened, and just like that, global demand for new nuclear plants evaporated. By 2017, Westinghouse was totally bankrupt, leaving Toshiba with a nearly $10 billion hole in its books. That was the knockout punch.
So now you're drowning in debt, you're drowning in scandal. The new board had this terrifying choice, either declare bankruptcy or sell the empire off piece by piece. They chose to sell, and what followed was this desperate fire sale of the company's most successful, most iconic divisions.
The crown jewel, their wildly profitable memory chip business, went for a cool $18 billion. The fantastic medical systems unit brought in another $6 billion. But then, look at the divisions that made Toshiba a household name. The TV business sold for just $113 million. And the pioneering laptop division, the one that literally started it all, it went for a truly shocking $36 million. $36 million. It's just wild.
But this is where the story gets even stranger. The debt from Westinghouse was around $10 billion, okay? The asset sales brought in over $30 billion. The math just doesn't add up, does it? This suggests the sell-off wasn't just about covering the losses, it was a sign of pure panic. A complete collapse in confidence from a leadership team that was just desperate to get out from under the problem.
So, What's the big lesson we can pull from all this rubble? Well, it's not just about what Toshiba did wrong, but also about what another company did right. Let's compare Toshiba's strategy to that of its longtime partner in Egypt, the El Arabi Group, who chose a very, very different path.
You couldn't find two more different strategies. Toshiba put all its chips on one big, high-risk bet, nuclear power. El Arabi, on the other hand, saw how dangerous it was to rely on a single brand they didn't even own, and they went the exact opposite direction, diversification.
Starting back in the early 2000s, El Arabi started building what you could call a multi-brand shield. They brought in Sharp, Hitachi, TCL, and even developed their own successful in-house brand, Tornado. So when the partnership with Toshiba finally ended, El Arabi didn't collapse with it. It survived and thrived because it hadn't put all its eggs in one basket.
And what about the Toshiba name itself? Well, the original company is gone, but the ghost of the brand, it lives on. You'll still see Toshiba TVs and appliances on store shelves, but they're now made by other companies like Hisense and Midea, who just licensed the name for the next 40 years.
Ultimately, the fall of Toshiba is a really harsh but vital lesson for everyone. This story proves that a legacy of innovation, a century of success, it all means nothing when faced with a corrupt culture and a single catastrophic bet made by the people at the top. Size is no shield against failure.
And that leaves us with one final very difficult question. Imagine you're in charge. You're facing a $10 billion debt, but you're holding $30 billion in world-class assets. What would you have done? Would you have sold the crown jewels for a guaranteed but smaller survival? Or would you have risked it all on a radical restructuring to try and save the empire? That single choice defines this entire story, one of the most spectacular collapses in modern business history.